We huddled together in the middle of the street and began to make our way further along. None of the houses appeared to have any lights on, and other than the sound of pipes groaning from somewhere far away, there was no noise at all. The dread began to mount in our guts. This was a very new experience, and one that felt unsafe at that. I noticed Ethan seemed especially afflicted, as his head pivoted much more rapidly than the rest of ours. I suddenly remembered what he had asked back during the scavenging run, and a lump formed in my throat. The next time we caught each other's glance, he coughed and stood up more confidently in an attempt to hide his concern. I wasn't buying it, however. Not only was he a terrible liar, but it was an act that I had seen too many times before. One that I wouldn't ignore again. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Andy, you're standing outside on the porch. We never come out here unless it's to bury something. Even standing on the safe concrete of the house, I could sense the uneasy pressure in my chest that the hills brought. I just wanted to be alone, Joel. It's the only place in the house I can count on to be empty. I took a deep breath and stepped next to her, leaning my arms on the railing alongside her. As I did, I crossed one of my hands over to take hers. This about Larry. She didn't respond. She just looked at the floor. I'm sorry, hon. I really didn't want to do it either. It's a lot more than that. What is it then? Andy shifted her gaze from the grass to where my hands held hers. Joel, don't you think it's time for us to go? My heart hit the floor with a hard crack at the question. What? I laughed nervously. What do you mean? I knew exactly what she meant, and she even called my bluff. You know what I mean, Joel. I sighed. Yeah, the accent. You told me we could go. I know, Andy, You just what, Joel? You said you didn't want this life for us. Didn't you mean that? Yes, I did, of course I did. But I don't want to lose you, Andy. If we go down there, we have no idea what might be waiting. She looked off at the hills, then shook her head. I don't understand. I thought this was your idea. You're the one who suggested we go. I know I did, Andy, but I think that I was being rash. I was so caught up in the moment that I said it without thinking. I think that's a lie, Joe. I think you know it's down there, and that the only way to get to it is if we go. So, what really changed? Her voice was chilling to me. She wasn't mad, she wasn't upset. She was just genuinely trying to understand. I just told you, Andy. I don't want to lose you. That fact has never changed. But why does it matter now, Joel? We teeter on the edge of death every day, every basket run, every expired piece of food we eat. Hell, even just standing out here on this porch, we might die. So why is this any different? Because those are all things that we know. If something goes wrong, we know how to fix it. But if we go down there and mess up one time, that's all it takes for one of us to lose the other. I know that, Joel. You don't think I don't care about losing you too? But I came to terms with that possibility when we decided to go, because that's the risk we have to take if we want to be free. But we don't have to take those risks, Andy. Especially not before we know what they are. There could always be another way out of here. You're only saying that because of... She caught herself before finishing the sentence. What? Nothing. No, Andy, I want to know. She took a deep breath and then softly continued. I'm not Rose, Joel. My legs grew weak and my throat began to tighten. I know you're scared. That'll be me. And I know that you think it was your fault. It wasn't my fault. No, she said, placing a hand on one of my cheeks. It wasn't. And if we go and die, that's not your fault either. And he stopped. You need to let go of what happened, Joel. Every day I see you hurting, every time I catch you looking at me, it's the same longing in your eyes. It's not about that. It's not. Then what is it? Water began to blur my vision as memories flooded in. Andy, please. What is it, Joel? What is bothering you so much? The fact that I love you, Andy. I said that louder than I intended. She leaned back in surprise as I wiped a rogue tear from my cheek. It was the first time either of us dared to say such a thing. I love you, and every time I love somebody, I lose them. And do you want to know the worst part? I always lose them because I'm the one who messes something up. I'm just this horrible monster that poisons everyone who knows me, but I can't be that anymore. I said as I grabbed her hand and squeezed it. I can't lose another person that I love, Andy. I'm not strong enough. I can't take that chance, and if you go down there and if you die, I will never forgive myself. That guilt will eat me alive until I end up dead. Andy didn't speak. She just stared back at me with watery eyes. Meanwhile, my tears flowed freely. Please. I'm begging you, Andy, please. I can't. Before I could continue, she stepped forward and pulled me close, resting her head against my chest. As she held me, I could feel my shirt become wet as warm, salty water began to spill from her eyes as well. It's okay, hon. It's okay. We can stay here. I'm sorry, Andy. I just... Stop that, Joel. It's okay. I'm right here. I took a deep breath and tried to compose myself. Harry just left. Maybe if there is an exit and he finds it, people will know what's happened and come looking for us. Yeah, maybe. Andy mumbled into my shirt. I could tell that it wasn't what she wanted to hear right now, and I immediately felt awful for everything I had just said to her. Everything I had promised her. However, I didn't have much time to think about it after what she said next. I love you too, Joel." She looked up at me with a smile. "Just by the way." I smiled back and pulled her into a kiss. The pressure of the hills was nothing at that moment. The conversation we just had was nothing at that moment. The poison I had infected Andy with, in my mind, it was nothing at that moment. It never was. As we walked down through the dark suburban neighborhood, I realized that I had started fidgeting with the folded paper in my pocket. Andy's note, the one she had left for me the night that she departed. It was crumpled beyond belief, and the parchment had become soft and worn over the last year. A side effect of it spending every day in the same place. I withdrew my hand and focused on the area around us once again. As we passed by a red house, Daniel suddenly spoke. "Wait a minute." We all stopped and turned to him. "What's up?" "No, that can't be right," he muttered, barely audible. In the sterile orange light of the street lamps, I could see that his face had gone completely pale. "What's going on, Dan? Everything okay?" Dan shook his head and then started walking much faster down the street. "Dan!" Bear shouted as we took off after him. He didn't stop. He just stormed forward, turning down a sudden intersection and further into the neighborhood. "Daniel, you're freaking us out, man," Ethan called out. "What's going on?" He continued for another minute without response before stopping in front of a beautiful house. It was 2 stories and much larger than all the other homes in the area. A garage was attached to the side of the main floor and on the house itself. Several large glass panes were peering into the home's dark interior. A window could be seen all the way up on the roof of the house, indicating an attic, as well as a basement window peeking from below. Bear, Ethan and I stared at Daniel as he just looked at the structure in terror and confusion. Bear stepped forward. "Dan, are you going to tell us what's going on?" Dan took a shaky breath and swallowed hard. This is my neighborhood. This is my house." Nobody moved as we took in what Dan had just said. "Are you sure?" I asked. He shook his head. "Positive." "I mean, are you sure? A lot of places use the same house models and..." "I'm sure, Joel." It was now my turn to swallow hard. I didn't want it to be true. Ever since we had stepped past our home upstairs, I had been trying to piece together the mysteries of this place. After our last run-in with the playhouse, some critical details had come to light. Daniel started forward, but Ethan reached out to stop him. What are you doing?" "I'm going inside." "No way you are," Bear snapped. "Your entire suburb just shows up in this place and you want to take a look around. That's the worst idea I've ever heard." Bear's right. This is definitely some sort of trap. "Let's just keep moving," Ethan agreed. "No way. If my house is down here, I want to know why. I'm sick of this place playing games with all of us. You guys can wait out here, but I'm going in." "Dan, no, Joel, Would you please back us up on this? Huh? I grunted. Bear stared at me and made a confused face. She could sense something was on my mind, but shrugged it off as there was more important matters at hand. I rushed to support her. Yeah, Dan, we should just keep going. This place has always been nothing but trouble. Nothing good can come from this. Daniel looked at all of us, then back at the building. I know you want answers, but we hardly ever get those. You know that. He sighed defiantly. All right, fine. Let's go. We turned from the abode and started down the street back where we had come from. When we hit the main road again, we headed forward, travelling along the stretch of road for about 5 more minutes before coming to another catwalk. Across it, another door sat waiting, suspended above another moat. Without a word, we started across. I took the lead. I wanted to get to the door first. The metallic clank of the catwalk beneath our feet matched our heartbeat, rapid, erratic. I got to the door and grabbed the handle, my heart sinking as I pulled. It's locked. What? Let me see, Bear said, skirting around Ethan and giving the handle a tug. Sure enough, the thing wouldn't budge. Bear gave the door a kick and muttered something under her breath. I knelt down and shined a light on the handle. The lock was unique in its design. It was a circular disc embedded into the handle with a perfectly rectangular hole for a key. Well, guess we won't be going this way, Ethan pointed out. Maybe there's another exit somewhere. Maybe. It's worth a shot, Bear agreed. I nodded in affirmation while Daniel stared cautiously over his shoulder. We began to walk past the moat's perimeter, looking for another bridge that might lead to an escape. There was none to the left side of the colossal room, but as we looped our way back to the catwalk we had initially crossed, Ethan took off running. No. Ethan, what's wrong? I realized the answer as soon as the question left my lips. The door we had left open was now shut. The book Ethan had wedged under it was nowhere to be found. Ethan reached the barrier and began to claw his fingers along the cracks, hoping to tear it open. After a good minute of trying, he defeatedly travelled back to us. It's no good. We're trapped here. Bear bit her cheek. That's not true. We still haven't checked the other side. Daniel snickered. Someone tells me that even if there is a way out of here, this place isn't ready for us to leave. I began to panic inside at Daniel's remark. Hey now, that's not true. The door out of the school was locked, remember? This is just the same deal. Just gotta find a key is all. And this place? Ethan asked. That could take weeks. No. It won't. Daniel started. If there's gonna be a key anywhere, we know exactly where it is. Daniel, no. Stop trying to put it off, Bear. The house wants us to go there and you know it. I clenched my fist. Daniel was right. I didn't want him to be, but he was. Tink, plonk, tink, tink. Echoing from the ceiling high above us, deep within the dark, we could hear the creaking and rattling of pipes as the curator moved to find us. Bear pulled the gun and we all ran to a nearby house and tried the door. It was locked. We hopped the porch railing and ran to the house next, only to find the same thing. We started forward again, ready to repeat the process when Dan stuck out his arm. "Look, we can run door to door all we want, but that thing's gonna be down on the ground soon. And it's faster than us. There's only one house in this neighborhood I can get us into." Bear gritted her teeth, but finally caved. She knew we were out of options. "Alright, let's go." We sprinted through the streets with Dan at the helm, flying past the red house again and down the intersection. The sound of the xylophone notes rang out somewhere behind us, this time on the same level. We didn't bother to turn back. We ploughed up Dan's driveway and to the front door, trying the handle. To our surprise, it too was locked. The panic set in. "Damn it, Dan, what now?" Bear yelled. "The garage." He turned back and ran over to the door. Dan flipped open the box on the side of the wall and began punching in a code. I prayed that there was actually power to the house and not just the street. Ethan shined the good flashlight down the road as we waited, and the beam caught something barreling towards us at an alarming rate. Behind us, the keypad flashed red at an incorrect code. Dan swore under his breath and tried once more. This time the keypad lit up green and the laboured sound of an engine rang out as the door hoisted up. We didn't even wait until it was off the ground. We dropped to the floor and slid under. As I hopped up, I was greeted with a flashy yellow Ferrari. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to admire its craftsmanship. We made for the door and to the house just as we heard the thing behind us pounding on its instrument and squealing like an injured pig. I saw it begin to squeeze its form beneath the crack just as we slammed the door shut and thrust the lock into place. From the other side, we could hear it josting the handle and throwing a tantrum that we had once again evaded it. I was certain that it was just as sick of losing us as we were of running into it. Once we had all caught our breaths, we turned to see Daniel standing in awe at the sight before him. A fully furnished home was laid out before us. We currently stood in a kitchen that sparkled with nice appliances and granite countertops. Through a doorway we could see a living room with a big TV, as well as a leather couch and two very nice recliners with a coffee table placed thoughtfully before them. Everything was clean, pristine, and untouched, not even a layer of dust. The only thing that was slightly off was the dining room. It too was spotless, save from the vase of flowers that once decorated the sturdy oak table. They were dead and wilted. "Whoa, Dan. Beautiful place you got here," Ethan said. Bear gave him an elbow to the rib. Dan shuffled forward slowly, taking in every detail. He gently ran his hand along the cold countertops before opening a cupboard above him. Inside, dozens of delicate glasses sparkled in the light. "It's exactly the same." He picked up one of the cups and turned it over in his hand. He ran his thumb over the spot where the glass was chipped. "Every little detail." While Dan was transfixed, Bear peered into the living room, then slowly made her way into the dining room, checking it as well. "Downstairs is empty." "Good to hear," I replied before turning to Dan. "You all right?" I asked, placing my hand on his shoulder. He nodded, then set the cup on the counter. I noticed tears welling in his eyes. "Yeah, sorry, it's just been a while since I've seen it this almost feels normal again." I wanted to ask what he meant by that, but I could tell that he was going through something that I wouldn't have been able to understand. "Do you know where a key out of this place might be?" Ethan asked after a moment. Daniel walked back towards the garage door where a set of hooks hung. On it were several keys. He hesitated for a second when he saw the rack. He ran his fingers over an empty hook. He then plucked them all from their place and tossed the set at Ethan and me. These were all the keys I had. If it's any of them, it's probably one of those. We thumbed through our sets, then exchanged a look of defeat. I could tell by their shapes that they were not the ones for the hole. I don't think any of these are it, I told him. The hole for it was a little rectangle. Daniel gave me a look of confusion. What? Yeah, it was like a square shape. That's it. Just a square hole. Yeah, it was a little metal disc with a rectangular hole right in the middle of it. He placed his hands to his lips as he thought. After a moment, he straightened up and then turned back to the garage door. That's not a keyhole for a door. There's a car ignition. We need a car key. Ethan read his body language and groaned. Let me guess. You don't have it on you. Dan shook his head. There's only one car's key I can think of, kid. And something tells me we ain't gonna get them anytime soon. Thud. Not even a second after his sentence was finished, the curator slammed its massive lumpy form against the living room window as we all jumped in surprise. It bowed from the tremendous amount of force, but, like all things in the house, didn't shatter. Yeah, Bear sighed. Something tells me you're right. Dan crossed the room and pulled the drape shut. Come on, there's room upstairs. We can rest here for the night. We headed up the steps to explore more of Daniel's home as the thing from downstairs scurried frantically from window to window to keep up with us. The house was as lovely upstairs as it was downstairs, with more furniture and decorations filling its sprawling mass. Among the decor were several paintings, one of which contained a picture of Daniel with a gorgeous woman. Both of them were smiling brightly as they sat on the side of a boat on a lake. I had never seen Dan look so happy. As we reached the hallway, several doors lined the walls. Down there is the master bedroom. Over there is a guest room, and that one there was my office. We all three noticed two more doors, both closed, a third straight ahead, and a fourth door adorned with stickers of bees and butterflies on it. We didn't dare ask what it was. We already knew. You three can decide how you want to spread out. I'll sleep downstairs on the couch. I don't want to be up here. Bear and I looked at each other, not only because of his last remark, but his first. Bear and I almost always slept next to one another, but it was never really acknowledged, especially not by the others. I could feel Ethan staring at us both as he waited for a decision. Luckily, Bear spoke first. What room do you guys want? I'll take the office, I spoke. Still prefer the floor, I think. Guest room for me. I don't want to get too comfortable. Ethan jumped. You take the master. Probably the best room. Alright. Bear smiled before throwing one last glance my way. I returned it before quickly darting my eyes to the floor. Ethan saved us from the tension by speaking up suddenly. There's a bathroom up here. I kinda have to go. He stepped into the door ahead and opened it. Daniel suddenly let out a cry. No! We all looked at him. Sorry. That is one, but just use the one in the master bedroom. Or the one downstairs, okay? Please, don't go in there. I could feel that we all sensed the strangeness of his reaction, but none of us wanted to step on toes. We just nodded and moved on. "Thank you. Good night," Daniel said before turning and heading down the steps. Ethan, Bear, and I did a sweep of upstairs to ensure it was safe, minus the 2 off-limit rooms. Then said our good nights as well. I stepped into the office and then closed the door behind me, slinging my pack off and retrieving a blanket. However, as I bent over, I noticed a picture frame on the desk nearby that was face down. I moved over to the table and inspected it. It was filled with very official-looking sheets, cluttered with numbers and values. Whatever Dan had done for a living must have been very complex. I gingerly reached out for the frame and picked it up. Behind the glass, staring back at me were 2 brown eyes, and they looked just like Daniel's. The nose was slightly different, and the chubby face made it hard to see the resemblance, but it was undisputable who the baby was. I instantly felt guilt for meddling and placed the picture face down right where I had found it. I then lay on the carpet. It was dry and smelled normal, something that I was not used to. I lay there for a long while, unable to sleep. Occasionally I could hear the curator scuttering around the roof or across the walls, but that wasn't what was keeping me up. I brushed my fingers over the note in my jacket pocket as old ghosts came to visit me. Larry, Mark, Andy, Rose, he and Sarah. They all swarmed around me and stung me with memories, with regrets, with guilt. I didn't make it an hour before I sat up and stepped out into the hall. Instinctively I walked to the master bedroom, but stopped myself as I passed the steps. I could hear a slight clattering sound from the kitchen. Silently I crept down the stairs, using the dim orange light from the lamps outside to guide me. I reached the living room and peered into the kitchen to see Dan sitting at a bar counter with a glass and a bottle before him. "Go on," I heard him mutter behind me. "Go talk to him. You know it could be one of the last times. Go to hell." "Hey," I announced softly as I stepped down into the room. Daniel was startled, but he eased up as soon as he saw it was me. "Hey, Joe. What are you doing up?" "Couldn't sleep. Your turn." Dan held up a bottle. A fine vessel of scotch. "Found my old liquor, and I don't feel like sleeping." "Any good?" "No. Always hated the stuff. Great for impressing guests, though." "Then why the excitement to drink it?" Dan shrugged. "I needed not to feel anything for a bit." Without asking, I grabbed a cup from the cupboard and took a seat next to him, and without speaking, he poured me a glass. I downed the golden liqueur in one take, letting the burning sensation set fire to my chest. Dan filled me back up after knocking his back as well. "What are you drinking to forget?" "Too much, Dan. Drinking to forget too much." "You're too young for too much." "I wish that was true." "It is. You're only, what, 23, 24? That's not enough time to make that many mistakes. When you guys get out of here, you've still got a whole life ahead of you. No need to call it so. When we get out of here, I corrected. Dan chuckled and then downed another gulp. Come on, Joel. Don't do that. Do what? I was just correcting you is all. No. You're trying to convince me. There's no need for it. I felt my jaw tighten as my throat began its familiar, choked grief. I don't know what you're talking about. We both heard Larry, Joe. He was crazy. Come on, kid. The signs are all there. He may have been insane, but he was always right when it came to this house. We don't know if he was right about this. I think you do know. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying so hard to deny it. You remember that ballerina from upstairs? You saw the bloodstain from Andy, how it abruptly stopped. Hell, you and Bear even said that hallway changed the other day. The pieces are all there, Joe. Partner that with Larry and what he said. I felt my eyes begin to water. I shot my glass over to him without making eye contact, and he poured another drink without hesitation. There has to be a way out once you're in. Maybe this isn't even it. John, stop. It's fine. It's not fine. We aren't going to leave you, Daniel. Daniel gave me a sympathetic look. You're gonna have to, kid. You heard Larry. He said when he tried to leave it was in vain. And that dancer that helped us, she couldn't even get outside the door. I shook my head in defeat as tears finally broke through my eyelids. I couldn't hold them back anymore. If this is your room, then I can't leave, John. You kids are gonna have to go without me. The note in my pocket was burning a hole in my side. The voices in my head were overwhelming, and the liquor wasn't enough to drown them out. I didn't want to accept it. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't lose another person I loved. There was no way it was all real. There was no way that a house could be this big. That there could be so many stories and holes so deep into the earth. There was no physical way that a structure could shift and twist its rooms, and there was certainly no way that those rooms could keep a human trapped inside by some otherworldly force. I felt like a fly caught in the middle of a web. I had flown myself and everyone I loved into it, and now we were just stuck. Just waiting until the spider came to pick us off one by one. Ethan was right. We weren't all going to make it. I stood up from the stool and started back towards the living room. John. I spun around and looked Daniel dead in the eye. I'm not gonna let this place have you, Dan. We'll find a way out for all of us. Without another word, I stormed up the stairs. I needed to stop the voices. I needed not to be conscious. I needed warmth. I needed beer. I wiped the tears from my eyes and softly knocked on her door. My heart sank when I heard no answer. I tried one more time to the same effect. I had decided to forget it and head back to my room when I saw her standing in the office doorway. She nervously fidgeted with her hands. "I'm sorry. I couldn't sleep, and I thought..." Before she finished her sentence, I had her wrapped up tightly in my arms. She hesitated a moment from surprise before embracing me back. "Is everything okay?" I just nodded and kissed her on the head. "I just really missed you." I could feel the warmth of her breath and the beating of her heart as I held her close. The former was slow and deep, and the latter was rapid and anxious. "I really missed you too." A heavy cough from Mark woke me from my sleep. The poor guy's neck still hadn't healed from Larry's assault. I glanced towards the window on the wall across from me to see that the sky was a deep periwinkle color. Early morning. There was still a good few hours of rest to be had before everyone awoke for the day. A slight chill brushed over my skin and I tugged lightly on the blanket, hoping to steal back what had been taken by Andy. And I was surprised when it came my way so effortlessly. Feeling bad for now to the one who was the thief. I shifted to cover her more, but my embrace only found a mildew-stained sheet beneath me. I lifted my head and saw that Andy wasn't next to me. Sighing, I lay back against my pillow and nestled myself into the sprawl of coverage I now had, waiting for her return from the bathroom. She always had to go in the morning, and it always woke me up, but I didn't mind. It gave me an excuse to snuggle back up to her once she lay down again. Listening to the room's ambience, I felt a sense of relief, gentle breathing from all the bodies around me, albeit more laboured breathing from Mark, and a sense of peace, something I hadn't felt in a long while. We had gotten so used to the stress from the thing downstairs that other worries had begun to rise to the surface. One of those things was Larry, and while I felt awful for admitting it, it was a massive weight off everyone's back to have him gone. It was always like walking on eggshells when he had been around, and his slow descent into madness that was only becoming worse and worse. Now that only the sane people remained, we felt united again. Deep down, I was still feeling uneasy about Andy and the exit. But after the conversation we had had the week prior, I felt a lot better. Surprisingly, it seemed Andy did too. She was a lot more lively and less often in her head. Her face of concern disappeared and were instead replaced by the smile that we had all knew her by. I had tried a couple of times to apologize for how I had acted at the porch, but any time I did, she would just shush me with a smile and tell me, "It's okay, Joel. You don't need to be sorry." It really seemed like Andy was okay. It really seemed. After a few moments, I noticed that I couldn't hear any movement from anywhere in the house, even the bathroom. The floors creaked beneath the carpet, yet, other than the breathing of my friends, there was no sound at all. I couldn't even hear the creature below us moving around. I sat up as anxiety let itself in. Something was wrong. Just like the night Mark was attacked, something didn't feel right. I stood slowly, trying not to disturb the others, and crossed the floor. The hallway was cold, and I hugged myself as I peered through the house. "Andy," I called out in a loud whisper. No reply. Light spilled through the crack of the bathroom door, and as I stepped forward to open it, my heart sank to find it empty. I swallowed, turned towards the living room. "Andy." The room was empty, and through the doorway beyond I could see the bodies twirling outside the sunroom windows. They stopped upon seeing me and began to beckon, showing off their ever-present smiles. Hilary was among them. She opened her mouth and breathed fog onto the window, then traced the heart. At least she would have if she had breath to fog it with. I always hated leaving the bedroom when it was this light out. I couldn't ever bear to see their faces. Their facade was happy, but behind their eyes was an unknown fear. "Andy, where are you?" Against my better judgment, I stepped into the sunroom. My heart began to pound at this point. It was the only place that she could be. I couldn't imagine why she would want to be there while the bodies were still out, but I knew there was no reason she would be in the dining room, and the only other option was the kitchen. Deep down, I knew there was another outcome, however. When I saw the sunroom was empty, I gave up calling. Panic set in, and I instead began muttering to myself, "Andy, please." Step by step, I rounded the corner into the dining room. I didn't see her in any of the corners. I didn't see her lying on the blanket we called our table. I didn't see her at all. I nearly couldn't bring myself to continue forward. There was only one last place to check, and I didn't want to check it. I already knew the outcome. Regardless, I stepped around the corner and peered into the kitchen. It took a few seconds for the sight to process. Despite being prepared for it, things were foggy and hazy like a dream. My legs shook and eventually gave out on me as I collapsed to the floor with blurry eyes. The pantry that blocked the yellow room door had been slid aside just enough to be opened. Opened enough, just enough, for Andy to fit through. Thank you all for making it to the end of this video, if you did. Statistically speaking, you probably didn't, but that's fine. I enjoyed narrating this one. I'm trying a little bit of different sort of recall emotion, so you may have heard points there where I was recalling certain sections where I had emotion in the more present, rather than just in the moments that are being relived with the characters. Just trying, seeing how it goes. Well, kia ora te whanau. Grimm here, as you know, pretty obvious, the only guy who seems to be here most of the time. Well, anyway, as I said, hope you enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun. Took me a long time to record. I lost my voice halfway through, and then, yeah, when I finally got it back, I forgot half of the accents I gave people. Usual stuff, you know. But that's alright. I've just been ticking along, enjoying myself. Which is all you can really expect from it. Well, this one will be coming out tomorrow, which will be the Sunday, or today, I suppose. It'll be coming out today, at some point. And in another 2 weeks, I'll aim to have the next one I think I'm going to release them on a 2-week basis so I have enough time to record in case the unfortunates happen. As I said, I'm also working on some other projects as well that I will be trying to get implemented on the channel at some point. They're passion projects, so they're not the best, but I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully other channels don't see that it could be possible that it becomes popular and then steal my ideas, because that would be very upsetting. Could happen, but fingers crossed. If it does, I also get picked up in their algorithm. Oh, sorry, that snort, what was that about? Oh gosh, I think it's because it's like 2:30 in the morning. Well, look, wherever you are, whatever part of the world you're in, be safe. Have an amazing night or day. And as always, I'm Grimm, and I'm, well, signing off.